Hello and welcome to another episode of The Holistic Way. My name is Todd Hart. I'm the host of the show. Welcome. Today I'd like to introduce Robin. Robin, why don't you introduce yourself and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Todd. I'm Robin Tangway and I'm the author of The Willingness to Change, 12 Steps to Transformation Through Your Handwriting.
Nice. So explain the concept of transformation through your handwriting. What does that mean?
So basically, if you're familiar with graphology, and people tell you everything that's wrong with you through your handwriting, just think of that in reverse. And so basically, the brain having neuroplasticity means it's changeable. So how we write, everybody learned Palmer method when I was in school, so they've had different Zahner and different methods, but basically, we all learn to write the same, but as we grow and change, our handwriting changes, and by the time we're adults, you could put the whole class of people who had perfect penmanship together and their writing would look incredibly different depending on their life's experiences and their filters. And some of it is subconscious and some of it is conscious. Most of it is subconscious. So basically your brain it's really brain writing because your brain is sending signals down your arm to your hand and that's how you form your letters. And so Vimala Rogers, whom I've studied with since 2003, who created this, the Vimala alphabet, she took that concept in reverse. So if you change the way you form the letters on the page, you're reprogramming your brain basically and realigning those neural pathways.
Wow. So can you look at someone's handwriting, and maybe this isn't part of the training, but can you look at someone's handwriting and tell if they're dealing with something like a depression or there's something going on that they're struggling with?
There is, I used to do a whole week-long class or 4-day intensive on all the different nuances of handwriting. And basically, Vimala and myself have pushed that by the wayside, and there are several reasons for that. One reason is, you ever hear the expression that a little knowledge can be dangerous?
Yes, yes.
So there are signifiers in handwriting, but if you're trained and you get them at a surface level, then you can just do more harm than good.
Right.
So the bottom line is, what we found over the years is that if you know the proper way to form letters and you just see which ones are off and you change them to the higher form of writing, then you don't have to worry so much about what's going on in the negative. So I can recognize negative patterns that show up in handwriting, and then that's basically what I do. Then I guide people to make the changes. And an example would be if I gave you and a whole room full of people the same handwriting change, it's going to benefit everyone, but how it affects you and how it affects 10 other people could be different because it depends on what's going on in your life and what's going on in your subconscious mind.
Cover up my handwriting as I write now. Do you notice people becoming self-conscious when they're writing around you? Do they get a little like, oh, I'm going to just kind of write over here?
Sometimes they do, yeah. I noticed you're left-handed.
I am left-handed.
You do not curve your hand like this, which a lot of left-handed writers do to get the ink from not going on the hand or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're a left-hander, you don't want to do that because this creates some kind of synapse in the brain that's not good. So if you're left-handed, just the way you write, going just like this, is very, very positive. Yes. So
that's it. That's today's show, folks. No.
Don't hide it anymore.
It's all over.
That's it. And the bottom line is, there's really no judgment in handwriting. So, and that's another difference. People are like, "Oh, can you tell me about myself?" And you know yourself better than anybody else. You don't need me or anybody else to tell you. So it's basically, I can guide you in stuck places, and it's just how you approach things and not making judgment calls over. As a matter of fact, Vimala calls it casual. So it's not bad. My handwriting, so I've heard people say, mine's horrible, mine's this, mine's that. And mine gets casual once in a while if I'm rushing or trying to take notes or something. So.
Now, you and I, when we first met, the question I asked you was, we're now in an age where no one's really writing anymore. People are texting, they're typing on keyboards. So are we losing the ability to write? And is our handwriting getting worse because of that?
And do people even know how to form
Do we even know how to do it?
letters?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. There are a lot of articles. People always sending me links to things, and I'm trying to think. The Time had an article, the Wall Street Journal, all different. If you search handwriting in schools or do a Google search, you'll find all kinds of information out there and different studies. So handwriting, it's kind of a lost art, and it really shouldn't be. And there are people, homeschoolers, if they're looking for a curriculum, Vimla has one for homeschoolers, and it's basically character building through handwriting.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing that, you're accessing a different part of the brain when you're tapping on a
Right.
keyboard or using your thumbs versus grasping an object, putting your hand around it, and writing.
Well, my daughter went to a Waldorf school, and they didn't use computers, and it went till eighth grade, and it was all handwriting, and it was emphasized on how they're doing it, and so it's very similar to that. I know we have some slides that you brought with you today, and tell us if we can bring the slides up. What we're looking at. Maybe we have some slides. There we go. So you have a book.
Yes.
Maybe if I can hold this up. I don't know if you guys can get a shot of the book. If we can go back to the camera. There we go. So this is your book. So tell us about your book.
So it's The Willingness to Change, 12 Steps to Transformation Through Your Handwriting. And
Available on?
it's on Amazon.com
Okay.
and also at your local bookstore. If they don't carry it, they can
Order it.
definitely order it and
Okay.
get it in. And if you're local and you want an autographed copy, then you can email me and I can do that
And
as
so
well.
if you do want to do that, you can send an email to the show. I'll forward it on to you. The email address for the show is theholisticway@hotmail.com. It's on the screen, theholisticway@hotmail.com. What's the next slide that you have here? What are we looking at?
So this is actually from a page in the book. And the premise of the book basically is 12 Steps to Transformation. And I'll back up and just tell you a little bit of
Actually, I was going to ask if you want to do that. So
Sure.
tell me how you were introduced to this material and how you came about getting involved
Sure.
with this, because I think it's a very important story.
Thank you. In 1996, I entered the world of 12-step recovery and basically had about 5 years of recovery and recognized that as an incredible path for transformation and purification. And 5 years into my phase of recovery, I picked up a book called Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life. And that was by Vimla Rogers, who's out in California. And so I bought the book, read it, thought, there might be something to this, and changed my handwriting. At the time, I was a single mom. I was raising my 3 children by myself and on public assistance and going to school. And I was just about to graduate and living in low-income housing and doing what I could to manage those roles. And I changed my writing that year. I had just got ready to graduate. And by the end of the year, and these are like major things, life transformations that happen in a very short amount of time, from spring of 2001 till the fall of 2001. I actually got a part-time job, graduated, part-time job, full-time job, bought a house for myself and my children without any assistance.
Wow.
And those were huge signifiers. Meanwhile, I had ordered the font, and that's what was on some of the slides is the Vimla font for my computer. And I handwrote Vimla a letter, and she ended up calling me in 2003 and said, Robin, I have your letter here. I've kept it, and I handpicked my students, and I'd like you to come study with me.
Wow.
So never leaving the East Coast, I flew out to California all by myself and just got immersed in the alphabet and the letters, and all kinds of things made sense to me. The things that I struggled with most in my handwriting when I first started were the greatest areas that I grew, and I didn't really understand that until I went out and studied more in depth about the qualities of the letters. And so people ask Vimla all the time, well, maybe that would have happened anyway. Maybe it wasn't your handwriting. And her
Right.
response is, well, you go ahead and change back to the way you used to write.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
not something that I've been willing to do. But
So how did you come up with, you brought the two together, the 12-step
Yes.
program together with the writing. How did you come up with that idea?
Actually, when I flew out there in 2003, Vimla knew that I was in the 12-step community. And so she knew people that followed that path, but she really knew nothing about it. But the bottom line was, as I was learning the qualities of the letters, they dovetailed exactly with the spiritual qualities of the 12-step program. So it just made sense that, first of all, let me say that the book is, if you're in any kind of 12-step recovery, and there are many A's in the world, it can enhance your recovery journey. But basically what I wanted to do was present the 12 steps as a path that anybody could follow. You don't
Right.
have to be addicted to something,
Sure.
or
You can use the 12 steps to deal with something else.
just to live a better life.
Yeah, and be happy and productive and
Yeah, and to clean up your side of things and have better relationships.
Right.
And so what I did was match the letters that went with certain steps, and to help you. And because the 12-step process, there's a lot of writing involved as well.
I was going to ask you that. Isn't there a lot of journaling involved with that?
Yeah.
And self-assessment, right? And
Yes.
taking an honest assessment of
Yeah,
who
a
you are,
personal
where you are.
inventory.
Yeah, personal inventory,
Yes.
that's it, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and then you make a list and do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing process.
That's great that you combine those two, because it seems like they should be together.
They
It makes
support
sense.
each other.
Yeah, they do.
Really.
Yeah.
So anybody
symbiotic.
can pick up the book and get something out of it. You don't have to. And a lot of people know people that they love who have addictions or have found their way into recovery. And so that's a way you can understand the process and be supportive, but clean up your own.
Right. Let's bring the slides back up, because now we can kind of go through it with that and tell us what we're looking at
So
here.
this is, the Vimla alphabet is on the top of the page, and if you notice, a lot of people pick up, like, that's not ABC order. But, so it's AOD order. In my book, I call it Vim alphabetical order. And it's basically, they're grouped in families, and if you get into the book, you'll understand why there's different qualities to each letter. So the first is the communication family, because it helps with honesty and better communication skills. But that's just a visual as how the letters look. They're very simple, basic, nothing fancy, no extra. Some of the things that we were taught in school actually have some kind of less than desirable qualities attached to them.
The way we're forming the letters.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So this is how clean it is. That is kind of cleaning up your handwriting. And also, it's print script, so not every letter is connected.
Right.
When I learned in school to write, unless it was an uppercase letter, everything was connected.
Is there a theory behind not connecting the letters?
There is. It basically, when you're connecting every single letter, and there are many components to the writing. So I learned to write on lined paper held in the vertical direction, and I used college ruled because it just felt better.
Right,
to-
right.
that really. So one of the things that I learned from studying with Vimla is to turn it to the landscape direction, turn your page, and to use unlined paper, which is very scary for people to do.
Oh, wow.
And then also I use turquoise ink 90% of the
Really?
time, or purple,
Oh, that's really
or
cool.
violet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so all those different components, basically, if you're using lined paper, the smaller the lines like I used to use, the more tight it is. And connecting every single letter, what you're doing is you're very inside the box and
Yes.
very controlled, and it was probably very conducive to teaching young children in a classroom.
I would think it would stress them out.
Stay inside the box and
Do as you're told.
yes, and so this promotes creativity, insight, to be more intuitive rather than mental. It's more heart energy than mental energy.
Well, when I'm thinking when I'm looking at this is that when you're writing, if you're just, cursive and you're just going, you're not really present. But when you're doing it this way, I feel like you're more present because you're concentrating on each letter and you're there and you're focusing, almost like a meditation.
That's a great analogy for it, and that's what I do every morning. I have a writing practice. It's a spiritual practice for me, and it's so great because as I actually write lines of letters across the page, even though I know very well how to form them, because basically I'm infusing the page with the essence of that letter. And I live my life in 40-day cycles. So I go from one 40-day cycle of writing a particular letter into another. And I've done that through the whole alphabet. 26 letters is just around 3 years to go through that in 40-day cycles. And it's amazing the transformation that takes place.
Now, where's the 40 days come from?
Well, any spiritual tradition
Is 40 days, isn't
Yeah,
it? Because I see that with yoga and going on a yoga, it's 40 days. That's interesting. Do you know where that's from, the history of that?
the 40 days,
Yeah.
I'm not, it has multiple
Okay.
roots in different religions and different customs. When I used to work for a mortgage company, we used to get these little emails from corporate saying 40 days to form a habit. So even corporate America
corporates or whatever, no?
knows
Oh, that's very funny.
they're in on
I like
it.
that.
But you can go back to the Bible and 40 days and 40 nights. And
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Okay. I think I'm going to research that. I'm curious about that. So what changes did you experience? So you're in the 12-step program. You then introduced this into it. Did it enhance it? Did it maybe speed up your recovery? What did you find?
It really did propel me forward to a place where I probably couldn't have gotten or would have taken a lot longer to get to.
Wow.
So there's things like self-acceptance and self-lovability, and a lot of people struggle with that. And so that's the letter P, actually, which is up on the top left, right. And that's I am loving and accepting of myself. So there are things like that I could have struggled with for a long time, but didn't have to. But not everything that I did in handwriting was easy. Like I said, the things that I struggled with the most, it can be very frustrating because you're used to writing a certain way.
Right.
So for me, it was the letter T. And it was my lowercase t, and if you look, it's on the fourth row on the left-hand side. There's one uppercase and two lowercases, and the second lowercase is a dancing T. It's kind of fun and playful.
I
I always tell everyone, master the second one first, because it's the tall T stem, and then the crossbar is right on the top.
Okay.
And my T's were like scraping bottom. And this is one of those things where I changed them, and I didn't know exactly why, but it was I had a visceral response. I did not like it. It was incredibly uncomfortable. As tall as I had to stretch that T-stem is how far out of my comfort zone I was moving. I was like, ew, it's not right. And then when I went out in 2003 to study with Vimala, I realized the components and the fact that T was your status in the world. And here I was, this mom raising my kids with public assistance and just my status in the world, it felt very low.
Wow.
So to have to pull myself up like that and to, it's a letter of the visionary. So there are Mother Teresa, crossed her T's on the top, and Mahatma Gandhi, and Maria Montessori.
Oh,
so
wow.
there's all these visionaries who, Abraham Lincoln.
Yep.
So it was a challenge for me, and like I said, I didn't know exactly why, but I knew it was uncomfortable. But I stuck with it, and that, looking back to 2001, that was my biggest area of change, to be completely independent and a homeowner, and that to me solidified the connection between the two.
Right. Well, I think just the fact that you are willing to slow down and actually practice, that says something to your brain. That's sending a message to your brain that, hey, I want to change, this is important to me, which I think that alone psychologically helps you change, right? Just the fact that you're willing to take the time to do it.
Yeah, you don't even have to know exactly what the positive attribute to the letter is if you change it and you do it consistently. Because there's the letter practice where you're actually doing the letters, but then you need to incorporate it in writing. And I love getting handwritten letters in the mail. I love when you just think about it, you go to the mailbox and you get bills and junk mail.
Right.
And how great it is. Vimla sent me a card for Valentine's Day, and it's just,
Yeah.
and I send random letters, and for Christmas I wrote little scrolls. I wrapped them up and tied them for placemats. But it was a letter from the heart to my children and
Right.
to my family.
Right.
And those are the kind of gifts that they can hang on to. And my daughter has one that I wrote when she was 7, and she's 25 now.
My daughter's godfather lives out in California, and he'll send her a card for her birthday and Christmas, and he actually handwrites, and then he goes over and he writes, and then it ends up going wherever there's space. But it's so cool because he took the time to do that, and it's always really special, and it stands out.
And you can do it for anybody, just the lady at the bank, whoever was the postman, and just thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
2 words, but when you put your autograph on there and you do it by hand, and if you use some fabulous colored ink, then it's a gift. To
Right.
receive a handwritten
That's true.
note is
That's
really
true,
a
especially in
gift.
this day and age. It truly is. Now you work with people. So who would come to you? What would they be going through or experiencing where they'd say, I think Robin could probably help me with this?
So I've worked with all kinds of people. Now with technology, here's the upside of it, is we can do Skype and Zoom. So I worked with a woman in Saudi Arabia, actually.
Really?
And we did so. The hardest thing is figuring out the time difference.
Right,
And
right.
then after that. So there is no geographical boundary if you have access to a computer. But basically, it's anybody who wants to make a positive shift in their life. So it can be because you're not sure what you want to do, or some people have specific things that they want to work on. So what I do is I take their handwriting as it is, and I always ask them for an original, because we can scan and email. But for the very first session, I get an original copy, a letter from them.
Do you have them write something specific to you?
It's really more specific to them.
So just a letter
So,
to you
yes,
saying,
a
this is what I
handwritten
want to
link.
work on, or okay, got
Exactly.
it.
Or this is where I am, or this is what I love, or this is what I'm passionate about. That's always good. Or I'd like more of,
Right.
know. There's always like things that that no longer serve me, and things I want to invite in. So there's both ends. And then I look at their writing to recognize sometimes there's always something that will pop off the page, whether it's the margin is way hugging the left side or whatever, different things where there are things in your handwriting that actually physically they're there on the page, but they are holding you back in life.
Right.
So I had one of my first clients, she used nothing but pencil, and she used lined paper in the portrait direction. So my first 3 changes for her were ink, landscape direction, and unlined paper. That alone can send someone into shock. So then I give them 1 or 2 letter changes, and then I would outline a 40-day practice for them so that they could practice a particular letter, and I offer them guidance. I've done one-on-one where I just give them a little information and then send them on their way. It depends on the person, and other people want to do the check-in every 2 weeks, and so I will guide
Sure.
them for 6 weeks through a 40-day cycle.
And how much time do they spend per day writing and working in the journal?
20 minutes, I would say, is a minimum. And if you want to do more, you do more. But really, to be fair, if you want to do a page of letters, and then if you're brand new, then I ask you to integrate it into words, the beginning, the middle, and the end of words. And all of this is in the book, too.
I was going to say that. It's
you
in the
could
book. Yeah.
Pick up the book, and you
kind
could
of do it yourself. And
you could do a 40-day cycle for the next 2 years. I had someone in India who has been corresponding with me, who read the book, who got it basically in 2012 when it had just come out, and asked the pertinent questions. I have a newsletter. I send it out several times a year. So I put these tidbits. I have a Facebook willingness to change page, and even a Pinterest page.
oh, nice. Good for you.
But I'll post articles that are relevant to handwriting, and just things that help people along on their
So
journey.
if there's a couple of things that you could, maybe 2 changes that people could make that would help them, what would they be?
I would say break out the turquoise ink, and really, because it's
Where do you
great.
get turquoise
and
ink?
then the Varsity has Pilot Varsity has disposable fountain pens. Those are fun.
Yep, yep.
And then the Jelly Roll has theirs is
okay.
just blue. Their standard blue is more of a turquoise color. And but the one change that I would give everybody, and it's not just because I had such a hard time with it, but it's the most
The T.
profound, is that T, that lowercase t, not to have a loop in the stem, to have it really retraced.
How do you write that?
And
Do
that
you go up
you
and down?
start here, go all the way to the top
Yep.
of that's the upper zone, back to the baseline, pick up the pen, and then a nice firm balanced.
Left to right?
Yes, yes. And that's another thing. I've seen people who cross
That is a
them
lot of work.
backwards.
It's funny because it's not that it's a lot of work, but you're kind of like.
It feels awkward.
It does feel awkward.
Does.
And, there's a little part of you that's like,
Yeah, there was a big part of me that was screaming, don't make me do this. But again, visionary, to set your sights above, not that you're better than anyone else, but to raise.
That's really fun.
It is.
Because
It's
I
pretty
sense
amazing.
resistance just doing that. Well, I'm like, I hate writing. I hate signing my name. I sign my name, it looks like a seagull. It's like, I used to get harassed by, when you're signing for a credit card, people would harass me, but I hate it. So, yeah, maybe I should finish reading your book.
Please do.
There might be some resistance I need to work on that's holding me back somewhere else in life.
And it's an incredible spiritual practice as well, because it is meditative. Once you get
Right.
past the, oh, crud, I did this, I'm not doing this the right
Yeah.
way, and at some point in the 40 days, it'll start to flow. And when
Right.
that happens, it's like, as I'm clearing my mind because I'm focused on forming a letter across the page, all kinds of insight and ideas come in. And
So just pick up a journal that's no lined, right? And you're holding it this way. And you're doing left to
Exactly.
right. That's fascinating. That's very, very fascinating. We talked about, who would benefit from it. What about children? Do you do any work with children at all?
children, I haven't done any work individually with children, but this is absolutely incredible for children. Not directly I haven't done, but I've worked with parents who are homeschoolers, and then they take it to their children.
It seems like a perfect fit for someone that's doing homeschooling.
It really is. And
Wow.
if there's no handwriting curriculum in a school, then by all means teach your children this, because it's character building. You're teaching them more than just the lost art of handwriting. You're actually helping to form all these positive qualities in
We've
them.
got about 20 seconds left, but have you thought about writing a book for homeschoolers? I think that would be a great book.
Well, maybe
Maybe
that'll
a little
be my next
how-to or
one.
something. It seems like that would be a great
Vimala
book.
has actually something available on her
They
website
do for homeschoolers.
for people who want to teach children. So
Okay.
I can give you the information for that.
I love this. This is very fascinating. I'm very attracted to this. This has been The Holistic Way. Thank you for coming on the
Thank
show.
you for having
We ran out of
me.
time very, very quickly. Thank you for watching. I'm Todd Hart. This has been The Holistic Way. Stay healthy.